Good evening, sir.
Good evening to all of you.
Should I start? Should I
Yeah,
start the webinar?
please go ahead.
Yes, sir. So, good evening, one and all who are virtually gathered here for the webinar. I, Rashi Savla from PCGT, welcome you. It is my honor to welcome our speaker, Mahesh Zagade, sir, Vaishali Gaurav, madam, who is the principal of Advocate Balasaheb Apte College of Law, NSS Program Officer Vishal Shinde, sir, and all the trustees and CAs of PCGT. We are gathered here today to hear Mahesh sir's views on the topic of Pegasus, which sparks a battle between right to privacy versus a surveillance state. To briefly introduce the topic to the audience, Pegasus was recently in the news again. Last we heard of it was, I think, in 2019 when some WhatsApp users, including journalists and activists, received messages from WhatsApp telling them that Pegasus compromised their phones. The recent news regarding Pegasus has sparked a lot of controversy. This software revealed one of the largest and highly sophisticated cyber attacks that have been directed onto the civilians, wherein the spyware was used to gain access to the target phones in India. These targets include numerous journalists, opposition leaders, activists, etc. The Pegasus attack allegedly violated the privacy of prominent Indian citizens and threatened to destabilize economies all around the world through its highly nuanced features. Our guest speaker, Mr. Mahesh Zagade, sir. Mahesh sir is now a retired IAS officer for whom it has been a wonderful and enriching journey of about 37 years of working with the government and with a reputed multinational company. Along the way, he has gathered insights into diverse subjects ranging from research and development, public and corporate administration, revenue, agriculture, rural development, urbanization, urban development, renewable energy, energy conservation, sustainable business plans, and also managing mega events like Kumbh Mela. And this is just to name a few. Some of the very prestigious posts he has held include Principal Secretary to the Government, Municipal Commissioner Pune, Commissioner of FDA, Transport Commissioner, Director General of Energy Development Renewables, and the Metropolitan Commissioner as well. Sir, I now invite you to kindly share your views on the topic before us today.
Thank you, Rashi. And I have time given till 6 o'clock. I must thank the PCGT Mumbai chapter and, of course, the college and the principal and the NSS unit and everyone there. I would have some announcements in the beginning, small announcements. One is that let's term this topic as not the Pegasus. That's what you say, that right to privacy versus a surveillance state. Let me add one word: introduction, because it cannot be the topic we cannot really cover in 40-45 minutes. So let's make it that the introduction to Pegasus and right to privacy and surveillance state. So that's number one. Number two. As all of you are aware, this matter has been gathering lot of concern all across the world. In India also, the sessions of Parliament were disrupted. There was media kind of onslaught of news content getting circulated in mainstream media and of course social media also. This matter has gone to Supreme Court. Supreme Court has appointed one committee under the chairmanship of the former chair of the Supreme Court, Justice Ravindra. And that committee is now investigating into the allegations made about the use of Pegasus against the Indian citizens. So that is the basis of it. Since the subject matter is under the all of you are the students of judiciary, students of law, so you are aware that if the matters are sub judice, we should not be really getting into the nitty-gritties of the law and what is happening there. So I would my disclaimer is that I will not get into these legalities of the controversy that is happening in India, but I will take an overview of the entire spectrum of Pegasus, how it developed, what it is going to be, what is its relevance to the privacy laws, and of course how the surveillance state can really compromise the privacy of individual citizens, not just in India, but as it is the global concern. So I think initially, I think I'm clear to you, isn't it, Rashi? Is that all right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Perfect.
Now, it is not just the phenomenon just did not start in 2019 or say 2021 when the large scale some countries it called it as scandal, some countries called it as the state surveillance, some countries across the world called it as a mega media event, and then it really rattled the world, especially since it claimed that it compromised about 50,000 smartphones across the world. And these smartphones belonged not to common people, but very significant kind of personalities, including heads of the states, for the senior journalists, social activists, senior bureaucracy in the world. So this was a kind of a layer that was targeted, and that made the news in 2021. And of course, before that, as Rashi said, it was even it was in the news in 2019 also. So this is the like how it came to be noted in the public domain. But it's not just that. It did not start in 2019 or 2021. It started much before that. When did it start? No one knows. And you will come to know why I'm saying that nobody knows when did it start. Because it is shrouded in the mystery. And it is supposed to be shrouded in the mystery. But what happened in 2016, August 2016, one Arab journalist, and he is also human rights activist by the name Ahmed Manzoor. He was investigating into the atrocities committed on the prisoners in UAE, and he was writing about it. He was being targeted by the government also that not to write anything about it. But he is a staunch human rights activist. He received a link in August 2016, and he thought that this link could be something that may be malicious. So he shared this link with another group, and this group was particularly. He sent it to the Citizens Lab. This is how it began. Citizens Lab is a Toronto-based university lab started by a few people who are trying to protect human rights across the planet. This Citizens Lab is investigative lab. It tries to protect the activists around the world wherever they are being targeted. See, there is huge official machinery. There is huge private sector, and there are some few like-minded people who are trying to protect humanity from the perspective of human rights. And therefore, this lab was established in, I think, 2001 or around that. And this lab has been now helping human rights activists, just like Manzoor. Manzoor was also helped in this particular matter. They investigated it further, and they found that this was a malicious kind of link. Now, this malicious link, they linked it to the Pegasus software developed and marketed by NSO Group of Israel. So this is how it began in 2016. They also further found that it did not just stop there. In fact, this particular malware was used by Panamanian earlier president and many other operators. They procured this malware from the NSO Group, and they used it surreptitiously, unofficially, to rein in, to control the dissidents. So this is how it began. In fact, the trail that this particular lab, it took that took them back to the iOS 7, that is Apple 7 version of the iOS operating system, which was introduced in 2030. So this Pegasus software is in operational since at least 2013, and that's how the lab, the Toronto-based lab, Citizens Lab, that brought it out. So as of now, at least this software is in operations from 2013 onwards, which is officially known by the activist. So this is the beginning of it. Now, further, there is another issue that that started getting noticed, and that issue was that one link through some like-minded people, they received a document that was leaked, and that document gave indication that about 50,000 smartphones, mobile phones were compromised across the world. So this particular leaked document was, in fact, they received many such documents, but somehow they found, this group found that there could be some kind of relevance or connectivity of these documents to the link or the Pegasus kind of software, which was discovered in 2016. So they tried to find out the connection between these two. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
So this particular, this 50,000, out of this 50,000 smartphones, they tried to connect some of these smartphone owners, because not that everybody was very keen on sharing this smartphone with the agencies for investigation, because there could be some serious issues about their safety also. But some of them shared this thing, and this was converted into a project called Project Pegasus. This Project Pegasus, in fact, there are about 13, 14 such agencies are involved in Project Pegasus. Main of them were the Washington Post from US, Layman from France, then of course Forbidden Stories, which actually received this document of 50,000 compromised phones, and Amnesty International, which is a human rights organization. So they tried to connect, come together. It was a collaborative international project to find out how this Pegasus is being used, how this has been developed, and what the Pegasus is. So the cyber wing of this Amnesty International, they tried to get into the depth of this Pegasus project. They really hit the rock when they started getting into this thing, because the Pegasus software is such that it did not give much of information. They had to only rely upon some of the peripheral information that was available. But when they tried to connect more and collect more and more information from more number of smartphones or the other gadgets, they try to develop a story, and they come to a conclusion that yes, Pegasus software is being used all across the world, and then they release the stories. One of the partners in this was, of course, Indian news house, The Wire, probably all of you know. So this is the kind of collaborative international effort, not governmental or not any official international agencies of UNO or any arm, but it's a private initiative of the like-minded people from the voluntary agencies or not-for-profit agencies. This is very important. So today, such surreptitious or the malwares, detection of malwares, it came from the voluntary organization or NGO or not-for-profit organization, not from our media houses and not from the governmental agencies or the international agencies. This is rather very serious, because if some such thing has happened, this should have been come first from the official sources, maybe Interpol or maybe some arm of the United Nations or some such organizations, but it did not get, and this is a very serious concern for everyone, as it is coming from the non-governmental or non-international agencies. When they further found out what exactly is the Pegasus software, it's a malware, malicious software. What is malicious software? Unlike any other softwares, this software initially, when it was introduced in 2013, what it did, it used to send some kind of link to the targeted mobile or targeted smartphone through text message, through some intricate file, through voice calls, or through emails. And then this is called spear phishing. Spear phishing is that you change the behavior of the target, because once you send it, the target is going to open the link. So this is called spear phishing. You send something and you ask that person, the receiver, to do some action. Action is like opening up the link, or like even downloading something. So that spear phishing was the initial software of Pegasus. And then once the link is opened, then the malware used to get installed. So that was the beginning of the thing, and that was what was found from the project Pegasus. What it used to do, once this malware is installed, then it used to take control and it started commanding the smartphone. What is the control and command of the smartphone? It's like it used to read the text messages, it used to document the call logs, it used to listen to the conversations of the software, it used to activate the camera as and when required, and it used to activate the microphone also. This is what was the initial Pegasus software. That's what was found from the Citizens Lab, and of course the Amnesty International's the Cyber Lab. So it was a very serious matter that somebody is sending something to a target, and that target is being compromised and is being controlled from somewhere else. Of course, this is a very sophisticated kind of software. It is not normally available for anyone. The NSO, the company that has developed and coded this software, they claim that they sell this software only to the governments, vetted, and it is also vetted by the Israeli government. Now, there are two issues that arise out of it. Now, if they are selling it only to the governments, that means the governments are involved in procuring such surveillance kind of equipment, and this surveillance is like, if it's properly used, it remains surveillance, but if it is not properly used, then it becomes a tool to manipulate people, tool to manipulate the heads of states, right from the heads of states to anybody and everybody. So their claim is that we do our due diligence and we sell it only to the government agencies. Then, two things, this is the one I said. Second thing is important. This is a private group. Of course, this group was, NSO group was founded by the people of the group of 2,800 of Israeli unit of intelligence, and they have got enormous wealth of information about the cyber security. In fact, Israel is a very tiny country, but its investment in the cyber security is the top 5 of the large operators in this field, with USA, China, or all these things. But Israel, even if it is small, it is one of the 5 top cyber security operators and developers in the world. So they have got very strong base about the cyber security. They said that we sell it only to the government. Is it really that? Do you really buy this argument that if they are selling it to the government, do we have to take their word for this? They can be selling it to anybody, right? Like if the money is the motive, the profit is the motive, we cannot take their word for word that we sell it only to the government. Even if they say that, but there is nobody to monitor that whether they are really selling to the government or they are selling it to their own private operators also. So this is a very loose end. Their claim that we only sell it to the governments itself is a loose end, which we cannot really, nobody can buy this argument that we only sell it. Because even if today the official copies of the firms or even the official documents get transmitted fraudulently somewhere else, this is the private operator. So many people question about the intentions of the NSO group, that whether they are really selling it to the government or whether the governments are asking the private entities to buy these softwares and make use of these softwares for them. It could be anything. So this area is very fuzzy. It's a very gray area, that whether they are really selling to the governments or they are also selling it to the private parties. So this is the gray area. Subsequently, when this project Pegasus started, they further found out that this software has been now upgraded, and the current version of the software is upgraded. Now that is very serious, and therefore probably I think such seriousness must have prompted college like yours or PCGT to really discuss this thing, and that is the seriousness that has brought the the Pegasus software is brought in. What is that seriousness? This particular software earlier, the spear phishing, that some action was required by the receiver of the or the target. Now the target is not supposed to do anything. If the Pegasus operator, if he decides to infect any smartphone on this planet, he can do it without sending anything, any message or any spear phishing kind of link or any call or anything. He will simply get hold. He will simply get hold of that smartphone and he will start operating it. So there is no more need for spear phishing. It is highly advanced version. So it is zero-click kind of infection of a smartphone. So here you do not know whose, had it been like some link, I could have stopped using any link which is not known to me, or I would not have received any call which is not known to me. But now I cannot do anything such thing because it comes just like that without any information to me as a user of phone. Secondly, this has been also upgraded to take care of that whether the software is installed or not. So it sidesteps all the antivirus softwares. So any software that is there available in the world today, no antivirus software can really do anything about this. Third is, of course, is that it also is programmed in such a way that the user should not get any feeling that his phone is compromised. Now, how one user can get a feeling if your data is getting used? Data, but for the information that is being collected by the software and being sent. So for sending data back to this command and control center of Pegasus, they need data. But if the smartphone owner, if he feels that this data is getting consumed, then he will be alerted. And therefore, this software has been designed in such a manner that it sends the data only when it is connected to Wi-Fi, so that the person doesn't come to know that his cellular data has been really getting used in a higher manner, higher quantities than normally it should be, because Wi-Fi nobody normally checks how much data is being used or not. So that is a larger set. Third is very serious, And what is that? This particular software, once it is installed, it doesn't leave any trace or tray back. It doesn't leave that this has been used. What does it mean? It means that even if the forensic investigation is carried out subsequently, then it will nobody can find out any digital footprint. All of you are aware that whatever we do on computers or on smartphone, there is digital footprint which can be traced back through the forensic investigations or inquiries. No more. Pegasus has taken care of that. Whatever they do, not a single physical or digital footprint is left behind once the data is extracted or data is mined or data is harvested from that smartphone or the device that has been infected. And lastly, they have also taken care that once the software utility is over, or one periodically they delete it remotely, so that one can never find out whether the software was installed or not installed. So this is very serious, extremely serious, that even if forensic, now the Supreme Court committee of Supreme Court of India, they have formed a committee, but I think I don't know whether anything will come out of it, because if the software is self-deleting, if software is that it doesn't leave any trail about the digital footprint, then what the investigators are going to find? They are way ahead of the forensic trail, forensic inquiry. So this is very serious. But I will come to the last seriousness of this software. And what is that? And that is scary part of it, extremely scary. It doesn't only harvest information, it doesn't only track you. In fact, track your GPS also, where you are going and all this, and whom you are talking to. It does everything. That means he knows everything. That software knows more than what you know about yourself. But more than that, what is scary? Now, the scary part. It can plant the evidence in your smartphone or the device. Now, what is that? It can create some emails that can go from you that as if the emails are sent to you, or that can create voice logs, call logs, as if you have made some phone calls which you have not made, or they can create your GPS location, whether you're not gone there, but they can actually infiltrate and plant the evidence. It is very difficult. It's impossible to for the forensic inquiry to say that it was not done by you. So for a person who is infected, it will be very difficult for him to say that I have not done this thing, because the evidence is there, it has been done, but that is being done by the Pegasus software. So it's a scary part, and that's how the world has been rattled because of this particular software. I'll tell you something more about this. We are talking about Pegasus, and Pegasus came to know because of Manzoor, because of the link that he received, and then the Citizens Lab in Toronto, they started investigation, then everything. Had it not been done, what would have happened? This could have been gone on, because it is not leaving any trail, it is not leaving any evidence, it is not leaving any visible footprint. What makes you to think, or what makes the world to think that there are no other such softwares? There could be similar softwares operating even now also with the same capabilities, or even capabilities even more also, or higher capabilities. So this world has not given a thought to it, because world doesn't have collective ability to address this issue. We are talking about this Pegasus, but my point is that Pegasus, we can really take it forward, but we should not disappoint that there could be many similar brothers and sisters of Pegasus being operated across the globe, and then sometime in the future there could be like exposed, or may never be exposed. So we have come to a level that something is being done on behalf of you. If you do something, if you are a terrorist or whatever, everything is being tracked. But even if you are not a terrorist, some kind of evidence is planted in your device that you are indulging in some terrorist activities. I think that it is becoming very complex now. And therefore, this Pegasus, you must know what it is. This is just a brief introduction. I have not gone into the details of the technicalities and what it does in detail. So this is kind of software that has really exposed the privacy. Nobody is now having his privacy that is guaranteed by Constitution or guaranteed under the human rights. It's not there. And such, I'm not saying Pegasus, such softwares are going to be the real threat to humanity in coming decades if it is not properly controlled. Now I'll come to the surveillance, and because of surveillance of by such softwares, how the privacy could be compromised. But this particular aspect I will discuss just as an academic issue, and it is not the real issue. Why academic issue, not real issue? I will come to it later on at the end of it to tell you. But as an academic also, we must really understand the intricacies of the state surveillance and the right to privacy. Right to privacy under Article 21, everyone knows, and the right of the state for surveillance under Article 19. That is there. So all of you know that, since you are the students of law, you know everything. But one thing is there, that this is not because of Pegasus, but it's a very long history that the state needs to have some tool to have surveillance for the protection of its sovereignty, protection of the security of the country, and to continue as an independent state. So they need some tools to understand where from the threat is coming. In fact, this is not just a recent phenomenon. It started when the man was living in jungles or in the wilderness. If some band of other tribe is going to overpower the resident community, then somebody used to be there on the hill watching that whosoever is coming or not, and then he used to gather that intelligence and tell the chief that somebody is coming, so let's be ready for the fight. So it is like it's from the ancient time, medieval time till today, the state surveillance and the intelligence gathering has been integral part. This is nothing new. What we are talking, and what Pegasus is saying, that we have developed this only for the use of the government for the official surveillance to protect its sovereignty and to protect from the activities of terrorists and destabilizing forces. So it's not new. It is age old, as old as the humanity, and it is there. But today, if you restrict ourselves this dialogue to the constitutional safeguards of the Pegasus software kind of softwares, and how the privacy can be protected. There are two provisions. One is the Indian Telegraphic Act 1885, very old British colonial kind of law, but which is still in existence. It is still there. This law has given power to the state under Section 5, that state can gather information, intercept the messages, can intercept the phone can be tapped, mobile can be tapped, for the security, integrity, sovereignty, and if there is going to be emergency of large scale, then state can do this. So this is the provision in the Act. But then there are conditions. There has been your sovereignty is going to be compromised. There's going to be large scale kind of revolutionary kind of thing is going to happen. So it is for the larger spectrum of the emergencies that is that is provided under the Section 5 of the Indian Telegraphic Act, and this is because of the Section 19, which guarantees free speech, but with reasonable restrictions. And these are the restrictions that are coming under the Section 5 of Indian Telegraphic Act, which puts the restriction that yes, state can tap your conversation, tap your messages through Indian Telegraphic Act Section 5. Then second, another act is of 20, Information and Technology Act 2000. Indian Information Technology Act 2000. That act has given little broader perspective. It's not only the telephony, or it's not just the mobile or the telephone, but this act has been designed to cover everything that travels or get transmitted through internet. So it is very large, because laptop, computers, machineries, everything, whatever gets transmitted through the internet, the Indian Technology Act, Information Technology Act 2000, that takes care of it. And there are also provisions under Section 69 of IT Act 2000 that takes care of the state can do this thing. But there is difference now. And let's understand what is the privacy and how it is, what surveillance is going to do it to you under the Constitution, under these two acts. The Indian Telegraphic Act of 1885, this act gives enormous powers, but restricted for the legitimate purposes. And those legitimate purposes are also further than where concretized by Supreme Court judgment of 1996, PUCL case, People's Union for Civil Liberties, and that particular judgment gave rise to the insertion of Rule 419A of the Indian Telegraphic Act. What does it say? That state cannot really go on intercepting the telephones of its citizens. They have to have internal safeguards. Now, what are the internal safeguards provided under Rule 419A? Is that only the Home Secretary of Govt of India or the state Home Secretaries of all the states, they can allow or authorize interception of any mobile or telephone. And that also it is qualified only when the sovereignty is compromised, 2-3 conditions given, not for anything and everything, nothing. So simply saying that the Home Secretaries have powers, no. These powers are extremely restricted. It has to be very large. And the words, if you really see into the Article 19, it says that the sovereignty and integrity of the India and security of the state, friendly relations with the other countries, is restricted just to all the large-scale emergencies where the agitations, last legislation restricting societies for longer period, these are the words. So these home secretaries are supposed to grant this permission to the intelligence agencies to intercept the telephone under Indian Telegraphic Act, section 5, Rule 419A. And that 419A came to be inserted because of PUCL judgment of Supreme Court. Now, home secretaries work under the state government or the central government, respectively. So they have provided that the home secretaries themselves should not go overboard and grant permissions in any and every case. So they have provided a review committee. That review committees are headed by at the central level cabinet secretary, highest bureaucrat, highest official of the country. He is supposed to get all the information from the home secretaries wherein the permissions for interception of phones are granted, and he is supposed to review whether it was done properly or not, that committee. At the state level, chief secretaries of all the states, the committees are there under him, and then he is supposed to. So some checks and balances are provided in this. But is that enough? Some of the activists, some of the judicial minds, they are questioning even this also. These safeguards which have come through the PUCL judgment are not adequate enough, because finally the cabinet secretaries, chief secretaries or home secretaries are part of the government. For them, they feel that now there has to be somebody outside ombudsman kind of thing, where the people are made aware, because whatever transpires within these committees or what permissions are being given by home secretary remains within the government domain. It never comes to the public. So PUCL judgment, according to them, is negated by this kind of internalization of the particular aspect of privacy. And privacy getting compromised, and therefore there is talk that even that there has to be some forum outside government that should also oversee this. In USA, they have the Senate committees which question which they have regular questioning about whether CIA, what information they are gathering, and internal they have. We do not have such continuous kind of process in the law, right? They have to share this information to the parliamentary committees. So if there are like attempts that we should have some such system, but it's not going forward. Now let's come to the IT Act 2000, which is little watered down version of Section 5 of Indian Telegraphic Act. It says the same thing, that we have to maintain the sovereignty and security of the country and everything, but there is one added provision for any investigation. Now, this has opened the floodgate of anything. The government can take hold of your device for any investigation, not necessarily investigation where the sovereignty of the country is compromised or the security is compromised or relations with the foreign countries are get disturbed. No, investigation. So, this is rather like objectionable kind of provision according to many senior legal minds and activists, that particular whatever has been done in the IT 2000 Act is rather we are going back in the PUCL case. We come to another part that just to address this, then there is one case of KS Puttaswamy case of 2017. This case has finally given some teeth, some solace to the people. And what is it? Case is that whenever there is some interception or whenever there is intelligence gathering from the citizens, for that matter, anybody, then 4-layer test or 4-stage test has to be fulfilled by the authorities or the government before intercepting any such communication. What are these 4 stages? One is that the state can carry out surveillance and breach the individual's privacy only when it is sanctioned by law. You cannot. This is as late as 2017 judgment, and this is judgment is called. It is actually virtually inserted right to privacy as a fundamental right. This is the judgment. So this is saying that if only if it's sanctioned by law. Of course, the law sanctions that IT Act and the Indian Telegraphic Act. But IT Act is really sanctioned what? It sanctions, but then it doesn't sanction to the extent that there is a scrutiny there is like somebody is actually checking whether it was properly done or not. So these fields are missing, as we discussed earlier when we were discussing about the IT Act. Second test is that test of necessity and proportionality. The necessity has to be reduced down in writing. That what is the necessity of interception, or what is the necessity of compromising your privacy, and proportionality. Now, even if there is something like some small offense is there, but you really cannot intercept them, it has to be very large picture, it has to be large thing. So proportionality and the necessity has to be there. Third is that there must be a legitimate state aim for action. Legitimate governmental aim, legitimate. Now, today, if you see, there are allegations that state orders interception in anything and everything. Whether it is right or wrong, we do not know. In fact, these allegations are there from 1960s, 70s onwards, that intelligence about the opposition leaders and all, everything was going on. So, last 6-7 decades, these allegations are there. But these case of 2017 mandates that since this has become almost like it is like a fundamental right, privacy, right to privacy. It says that there has to be a legitimate state aim for action of collecting data, action of compromising the privacy. And fourth test is that procedural guarantees against the abuse of power. This is very important, and this is really missing. There has to be procedure laid under law to prevent any abuse of power by the governments, be it the state government or the central government. And according to the judges, it's a very huge judgment, I think more than 400 pages, that the stand they have taken is that there has to be procedural guarantee that the government will not abuse the power of the power of interception and all this. So this is a very virgin field as far as, like it's debatable. One can say that there are fair guarantees, one can say that there are no guarantees, one can say that the state cannot abuse, somebody will agree they will abuse, but there is very grey area, and it needs to be really further concretized, otherwise things will go from bad to worse. I will come to the last part of it. So what I told you initially, we are discussing something which is not supposed to be discussed. We are not supposed to be discussing Pegasus. We are not supposed to be discussing the state surveillance and the right to privacy, because we are discussing something which is out of context. Now, what is the context? Context is that we are discussing only with reference to the government. Now, what is happening beyond government, that is very worrisome. Not just worrisome, it is very scary also. What is it? There are many such large-scale data gathering efforts going on, or softwares available in the private segments. When we talk about this, we just become like, I don't know if some data is being collected from me, from Facebook or whatever, or WhatsApp. In fact, WhatsApp is fighting case with Pegasus. That WhatsApp was this popular platform, messaging platform, was used by Pegasus to infect and target this thing. But WhatsApp could itself be making use of such information. So this particular aspect needs to be kept in mind. It is not just the Pegasus, it is not just the governments, but now we are exposed, humanity is exposed to initiatives or the efforts of the private sector where they can use such data, collect such data without the information of the individual whose data it belongs to, and then they can make use and manipulate the individuals. Now, it's a different topic, but through such information getting collected, human mind is getting hacked now. This is more serious than even like your privacy getting compromised. Humanity is going to get manipulated through hacking of minds, and because of the algorithmic softwares that are getting surreptitiously circulated, information getting gathered. The main problem here is that nobody is aware, or people are aware, but nobody is serious about this, that it is happening globally. Today, everybody is saying that Pegasus is targeting. Of course, it's a very niche kind of software. It can target only few individuals. It's not a mass surveillance kind of device. So people need not worry, because it will not come to you, it will not come to me, it will be only for the very senior people or journalists or whatever, and we are not in that particular bracket. So we need not worry, since it is not a masking. But one thing you must remember, when when the mobile phone was introduced, that time the charges, if you are probably not knowing that, but per minute 16 rupees were required to be paid. Today, in fact, it is nothing, almost nothing. So in few years, this targeted individual centric software can be mass also. It can be used, or such softwares can be used for the mass humanity also. And everybody's privacy can be compromised without the knowledge of government. Government will not know what is happening there, because it is outside the government. Secondly, even if the mass is not done, it is Achilles heel phenomena is going to get at work. And what is that? Achilles, like the ancient times, the mythical Achilles, is how he was to be killed. So the Achilles heel, that idiom has come in. What is Achilles heel? Now, if some country inimical to another country, or some private house, or one individual who is expert in developing such softwares, can really plant something in the mobile phone or the system of heads of some state, and that state can be threatened that if you do something, if you do not do what I am telling you, you are going to get exposed that you are doing such and such things, Achilles heels. Like you had some negative points, I am going to expose it to the world. So that heads of state will be compromised. If the head of state is getting compromised, all the citizens are going to get compromised. So this is the seriousness of this particular software that is going to be there. So for the future, it is not just this Pegasus, it is not just the constitutional guarantees, but it is what is happening beyond the Pegasus and beyond the constitutional guarantees, that without anything, I am being exposed, I will be manipulated, my mind will be hacked, and these technologies developing every day and day out, that the world is going to be like at the mercy of those developers like Pegasus and their brother. So this is a very serious issue. I hope the world leadership wakes up to it. There has to be mass awareness also that what is going to happen. And today also, if some Pegasus like softwares are being there, we do not know, and tomorrow, after 1 year or so, we may get that such things are happening, and then we are not doing anything. Virtually, we are not doing anything. Governments are not doing anything. International bodies are not doing anything. And therefore, it's like a complete silence on this front, that the kind of the challenges that are going to emerge, have already emerged, are going to be little challenges, big challenges for the humanity. That's how I could cover it in brief. I think only 5 minutes are left. So I don't know. I tried to compromise and I related so many aspects of it, but that's how it is, because time is too short. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. That was an enlightening hour. I now open the platform to questions anybody has regarding the topic. You may raise your hand or drop the question in the chat box.
No questions?
If there are any questions, you all can unmute yourself and ask, sir.
No questions?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
So as you
Please.
said, this is, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. You're audible.
So I just said it's a sort of a very serious issue. Like we are getting uh, spied by some software, and there may be many such softwares around us. How are we really going to tackle such things? How do we tackle?
See, there has to be, we were under the subjugation of British people for 150 years, and there was mass movement for the freedom struggle. Now, this entire humanity is under threat, and there has to be awareness of entire humanity. There has to be movement to control this. Otherwise, the things have moved. The things are moved out of their hands. They are slipping out of the hands, and to do something, the window is closing very fast. Otherwise, there is going to be a point beyond which you really cannot do anything because everything remains compromised. All the heads of states are going to be compromised. So, people like you, students, although activists or journalists, they should come together and collectively something could be done. Now, this Pegasus project was exposed because of the collective effort, international effort, some major media houses, non-profit organizations, and some individuals. So we need to have a very strong movement across the globe. Otherwise, it's little going to be a very serious issue.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any other questions?
Was it too technical or?
Not at all, sir. It was very simple to understand. You laid it on perfectly.
I did it because I thought but still since there are no questions or reactions, I thought.
Sir, there are no questions maybe because you explained it so clearly.
Okay, then if there is nothing else, then we can.
Yes, then we can, Vishal sir, and now open the platform to give the vote of thanks.